to replace another officer we lost to the city of Quincy. And we've moved forward with hiring 3 firefighter paramedics a few weeks ago to handle the additional workload that was expected, and those guys have really helped out. They can only serve as paramedics, but I know the chief's been able to use them. We've had a couple of incidences where we've had to put guys out and wait. We thought they may have COVID, so they had to go through that whole process. Luckily, at this time, we haven't had any public safety people suffer from it. We're just plugging along in the public safety side. The budget, a few weeks ago, we started reviewing and closely tracking the FY20 revenues. At this time, we believe we're going to cover the expenses with the revenues that we're taking in, but that's all dependent on the bills that just recently went out for the fourth quarter taxes, hoping that most people are going to pay those on time, on or about time. We're going to allow some flexibility as far as interest and everything. What else did I forget? With the expectation that we might have revenues come in a little bit lower than expected, we have placed a freeze on new hires, with the exception of these public safety people I referenced, and budgets. We're allowing departments to go forward with COVID purchases, emergency expenses, contracts that may be in place, and utilities that are needed. So that's really where we stand for FY20. I do expect we're going to need some adjustments eventually, one way or another. But as we get closer and the budget works itself out, we'll let you know before town meeting, whenever that happens. As far as FY20, we have started already looking at everything, reviewing police, fire, library, council on aging, every budget, from the top of the budget all the way down to insurance and everything. Everything's on the table. We've already taken the steps to reduce state aid by 10%, reducing meals and hotels tax by cutting those in half. We've reduced new growth down. We're still tweaking that number. I'm working with Dennis on that. The permitting fees have been reduced down from $1,050,000 down to just about $850,000 at this point. That's the building inspections. The investment income projections are also down, and reduced penalties and interest are also down. So do I have a firm number for you guys tonight? The answer is no, because we're still working it out internally. And the state aid is going to be huge. We've been thinking of a 10 to a 25% reduction in that. The 25% reduction for us is just about $2.5 or $2.6 million. So it's a big jump. I'm not there at going up to 25% at this point, just because that's just such a big impact on our budget. But I have done the 10% at this point. Come May and June, I'll have a much better sense of what we're doing as far as our projections, our revenues that we take in. I don't know about the state. I'll share some articles that were given to me this week. Mike Frisch and I sat in on a call with administration and finance, and it was a very dreary picture that they painted for us. As far as town meeting, Dan postponed town meeting until June 3rd, but that's just a placeholder at this time. I do expect us to go forward with a date, probably sometime. I've reserved the high school for June 22nd, 24th, 29th, and 30th. And I don't know if we're going to be meeting inside or outside. We've kicked some ideas around about meeting outside, potentially maybe on the high school football bleachers, to spread out, but nothing set in stone. And we do have the ability, if necessary, to go on the 1/12 budget. I really would not prefer that, but if we need to do it, that's the route we can go. So that's really kind of my, what have we been doing update and to cover everything. Mark, do you want me to open up to questions, or you to open up to questions, or?
Yeah, let's open it up to questions, then we'll get into the reserve fund and possibly some other votes.
So this is Susan. My question is, what did you just say, Jim, about it's not your preference, but we could go with the what budget?
It's called the 1/12 budget. If we don't set the budget, this used to be only open to cities, but since this has all happened, some of the new legislation allows cities and towns to go on a 1/12 budget, which is essentially you go back, you divide your prior year budget by 12,
Okay.
and you go month to month based on that budget until
Okay,
you.
thank you. Okay.
Okay, Brian, I think was next.
So I really don't have any questions. I just want to give a shout out to Melissa Ranieri and the Board of Health, the director. I think our Board of Health has gone above and beyond providing information. Not every town is doing what she's done for us. Dr. Goff and the school department, and especially the teachers, the adaptability has been unbelievable. The communication from the school department to the parents has been unbelievable. So great job. To Chief Bailey and the fire department, I think opening up the firehouse in East Walpole was a very smart idea. So thanks for doing that. And then also to Brendan Croak and the recreation director for the engaging activities that he's done for the families to help through this time. So I think it makes me very proud to be and live in this town based on what's happening with our employees. So thank you.
Thanks.
I echo
Everybody's
that.
really stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, I agree.
Any other questions or comments at this point? Andrew?
See Andrew. Yeah.
I have two questions. One is about the status of union contract negotiations, given this unprecedented situation. Where do we stand with those? Is that something that we want to hold for the fall? It's not. Is it essential or not for right now?
That's more of a labor question because 5 of the 6 unions prior to all this agreed, had come to terms for the most part. The dispatchers and the fire union were brought before the Board of Selectmen. They voted to ratify it and bring it to town meeting. And the AFSCME unions, which is the clerical DPW and the library, came to terms with me, and we were just about to bring it to the Board of Selectmen. So Labor Council and I have talked about this, and we don't want to be in a position where we're bargaining in bad faith, but I think everybody's well aware of what's happening in the world around us. So I'm going to approach them and see if they'd be willing to change some of the living adjustments once we get a better sense of what the actual, as we get closer to town meeting. If they're, ultimately it's going to be up to town meeting, they can reject it, but I don't want to be in a position where we're bargaining in bad faith and not bringing a contract forward that's been agreed to.
Thank you. My second question is about the major development work underway, both downtown and elsewhere. Has there been any updates about potential changes in investment plans, or are those proceeding as best they can given the limitations?
So the 2 major projects downtown, they are proceeding. Actually, them and the former Walpole Woodworkers site continue to proceed. We did put a stop work order in for about a week and a half on those right at the beginning of all this, when there was a lot of uncertainty. But since then, the regulations have come out from the governor's office, and we've made sure that those are in place at each of those work sites. So they're plugging along, and they haven't approached me. They actually approached me, and they were disappointed that we shut them down for a week plus. They wanted to get back to work. So they're still going strong. And as far as like the Fields project, that's still going on. It's covered under the exemption because it's construction. They have some wash stations. They're practicing the social distancing because they're in the machines, just one person at a time. And the biggest slowdown for them has really been the weather, the rain, but they're plugging along too with that one. As far as capital projects, and I know you didn't really ask this, Andrew, but I'll volunteer. We've frozen a lot of those accounts too. Obviously, with the Fields, we've already gone ahead and signed the contract. The money is, the cash on hand is just about used up, and we're getting into the borrowing money now. So, and anything else like the $400,000 for the high school project, we're kind of on hold on that one, just in case. We haven't gotten into that, but the MSBA project is still plugging away. With the middle school project, they are starting to interview. They're going to do remote interviews over Zoom in the next couple of weeks with architectural firms. That may be placed on hold, and I'm hoping it kind of comes from the state because I believe that's driven by the revenue that they take in. So, but as of now, the 2 big projects, the MSBA and the Fields, are plugging away.
Thank you.
Mark, I have a question.
Okay, Mark Sullivan, go ahead.
Yeah, Jim, I'm wondering about the summer programs. specifically the recreation ones. Are you planning to still staff those as normally? And if we do staff them and we offer contracts to summer hires, and then for some reason the programs aren't allowed to take place, do we still have an obligation to provide them, the money and funds?
For the recreation department, I'm assuming you're asking. Right now, we're still acting as if we're going to have a summer recreation program. I know Brendan was about to start interviewing some of the kids that come in for the camp councils at Jarvis Farm, lifeguards, and I know that the Junior Police Academy filled up within 1 hour. I know that because my daughter signed up for it. So right now we're plugging away, and if we need to cancel those programs, like we've canceled the the spring programs, we'll do so. Those employees aren't contractual. They're just even if they had a program and it didn't fill up, we just would cancel the program. No harm, no foul. And Patrick, as a former recreation director, am I missing anything on that?
Well, the only thing I would mention is, so licensed camps and swimming pools they're licensed by the Board of Health. So I know that the health department is still awaiting guidance on as far as if those things are going to be allowed to proceed for the summer. If they are, I'm sure there's going to be some stipulations with that. So I'm sure we'll see something in the next few weeks or so statewide about how cities and towns should be handling that. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you, Pat. Mark, did you hear that response?
Yeah, I heard him. I think it's Jeff Fisher might be trying to say something. He's muted. Yeah.
I think that might be it, Mark.
Yeah.
So would you like to talk about the reserve fund transfer for the veterans budget?
Yeah, let's move on to that.
Okay. So the veterans reserve fund transfer, I know John Cogan's here, but this is something that we were expecting prior to all this happening. We thought we were going to be about $15,000 to $20,000 short on that account, just because John's doing his job. He's getting out, making sure the veterans have their benefits that they're eligible for. The only spike here has kind of come over the last couple of weeks. He's had a couple veterans come forward. Prior to all this, we also had a burial that we had to cover. John, am I really missing anything?
No, that's true. We've had a few new cases, and then we had obviously that the veteran that didn't have any family, and we helped with the coverage there. So that was unexpected right there. But yeah, no, that's about it.
So the plan with this is we think will get us through the rest of April and in May. And we'll likely come back to you in May for June. And if we have any overages in May, we'll also cover those then. And we'll go month to month. I'd rather give you rather than asking for 22,000, I'd rather just go month to month on this, just to close out the last 2 months of the fiscal year and go from there. Any questions?
Any questions? Then I'll entertain a motion for favorable action for reserve fund transfer.
Mark, Jeff Fisher, I think, has one.
Jeff?
Jim, you said 22,000. The letter said 11,000.
No, I was just saying if we covered it for the whole year. I just
Okay.
don't.
Sorry. Just a question. I noticed the date of the letter was March 8th.
It is.
So it's been a while.
No, I think that was on me. I think it should have been April 8th.
All right.
I
wouldn't sit on it for that long, Jeff.
I would move for favorable action on the $11,000 transfer.
Second.
that.
Motion by Susan, seconded by Kathleen. I don't want to do a roll call because basically everybody's got a picture. So all in favor, please raise your hands. One,
Aye.
Allison's an aye. Okay. I see unanimous vote. So we have 13-0-0. And I have a copy of the form that I will sign and send off. And today is 04/16.
So Mark, I think the only other thing I wanted to touch base with all of you on, with everything still being very much up in the air, we'll know some more maybe on May 5th, May 4th, but May 4th may come and blow us by and we may be in limbo for another 3 or 4 weeks, but could we tentatively plan on meeting on May 7th? That's a Thursday night, just to touch base. We can give you guys an update.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
What's the likelihood that we're going to have to try to get a booklet out before the June 3rd date?
I got to work with council on that one because I don't want to have you guys publish a book that's not accurate. We may just publish the bare minimum on the booklet, just publish the articles and maybe not include the budget in that one because it's probably going to change up until a couple of weeks or a week or a couple of days before town meeting. So
Right.
I'm going to work with town council on that one.
Okay, so May 7th meeting, we could go forward with no action, refer back to committee on the items that we deem that we're not going to be able to debate or recommendation at town meeting, just so that there's votes on record for whatever we plan on doing.
Okay.
Do we tentatively put it in for 6 o'clock? Unless we hear otherwise?
I'm fine with that. I'll defer to you guys.
I'm fine with that.
If we're still home, what difference does it make?
You bet.
Okay.
So I'll plug that in, just May 7th. I know Bridget, Mike, and I think Bill Buckley and Nancy are here. Do you want to open it up to the schools just if they have anything to say?
Yeah, let's start with Bridget because I got her weekly email. And there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the schools. Bridget?
Yeah, we're just, it's never a dull moment. It's just packed from beginning to end. But the staff just really, like Brian said, they're working really hard. Our district, really started early with this remote learning in March. So we've got everything up and running. And actually, our extended day director next week is going to be doing some really cool home activities, fun activities for the family. So that's going out to all the families tomorrow for K-8. So I just can't say enough, and we're just trying to continue to communicate to our families. And we know there's a lot going on at home, and we just appreciate everybody's support.
Has the Chromebooks really helped with the homeschooling for the 7 to 12?
Yeah, so we also distributed Chromebooks in the elementary level too. We had almost like a drive-through where they popped their trunks and we put them in the back of the cars and signed them out. And so we were able to get Chromebooks to families who needed them at the elementary levels too.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah, well done.
Any of the school committee want to chime in?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chairman, Bill Buckley. I think to Bridget's, to your point about the Chromebooks, we're very grateful for this body, which supported those Chromebook investments in the last couple of years. It really kind of made the difference in our ability to deliver in-home instruction. And I think, we're all, as Brian mentioned, we're all very grateful for all the town employees, but especially, our teachers and support staff who've been, I think we've described it as building a plane while flying it, building a house while living in it. And I think it's just, I speak for my colleagues who feel it's quite commendable. Obviously, we're working closely with Jim through Bridget and Mike Frisha to look to the future, look to what next year will be as we also strive to close out our FY20 budget. And I think, just kind of to echo to Jim's point, it's, there's so many moving parts. We're grateful to be on calls like this and to be having a lot of dialogue through a budget process that's going to last well into June, it looks like.
Anybody else? Okay, Jim, you have any final comments?
No, thank you for agreeing to meet. I appreciate the transfer. I know John does too. And we'll continue to keep you guys updated and work through things. One way or another, we're going to have a balanced budget. My goal is to avoid layoffs as much as possible, and if possible, not dip into stabilization for FY21. I think we're going to need it in FY22. So.
Okay. Alrighty, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Moved by Susan, seconded by Josette. Show of hands, all in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Susan said aye. 13-0-0. Thank you very much for your time, people.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Good
Stay
night.
safe,
Thank you.
everyone.
Stay well.